The Undercountry Music News is an excerpt of the weekly internet broadcast Undercountry Music, which features music from great country artists you won't hear on mainstream radio, as well as a roundup of the most interesting country music news of the week without all the fluff. This program you are listening to right now contains only the news portion of the show. To listen and subscribe to the full weekly episode containing the music and interviews, please visit undercountrymusic.com or simply subscribe to the Undercountry Music Podcast on iTunes. Let's get into it. Grr, baby. You know, there is an interesting new statistic I found in the news recently. Now, were you aware that women with a few extra pounds and a little bit of age on them actually tend to live longer than the men who mention it? And that's not all, because it's time for the Undercountry Music News! Yeah! Claws down my back tonight. Yeah, or today. Actually, it's morning when I'm recording this. The Undercountry Music News. We find ourselves back here again, do we? To delve into who is and who is not reporting the country music news that they say they're reporting. Here, let me fill you in. If you never heard the country music news, Undercountry Music News, here's what the deal is. Every single week, I go onto Google, I type the search term in country music news, and I report on those who report the country music news. So let's say a website has a whole bunch of, stories about, oh boy, I'm running out of analogies here, but let's say story about how one artist will protect their knees while gardening, and that kind of crap's in the news. But then, they'll have like 6 or 7 of those stupid stories like that really aren't news. They're just, a little human interest and just fluff and garbage. And then they'll have the hard-hitting news, like the real news, And what I do is I go onto all those different websites. I find the 1 or the 2 actual news stories, the real meat, the stuff that you can feed the cougars. That's right, baby. We're still on the cougars. I'm going to run with that one for a while. And then I bring it to you, the cougars of Undercountry Music News. Now, there is one other thing. If I go onto one of these websites who claim to have country music news, and they don't, I feed the entire website to the cougars, and I let you claw them and slash them and mash them while they crawl for their lives. No, actually, I don't do that. I just belch. That's right. I expel gas right here on the show in the form of the Undercountry Music News Wet Belch of the Week. That is how I voice my displeasure at those who do not do what they're supposed to do. Shall we get into it? Let's do it. Over at CMT, you may remember last week that I had reported that a park in Ireland where only 3 concerts per year are allowed had extended a 5-concert run to Garth Brooks for his big comeback shows, despite protests from the ninny hand-wringing residents there over Croaking Park in Ireland. Blimey! They're going to have 5 concerts, we only allow 3! Well, I'll need to speak with Brian O'Grady and Grady O'Brien about this. Well, anyway, an Irish concert promoter that was throwing these is being forced to cancel 2 of those 5 shows to adhere to the 3 concerts per year rule, following a decision by the Dublin City Council, who handed down the ruling on July 3rd. And refunds are being given to the folks who purchased tickets for those final 2 dates. Now, I have to imagine that before you start selling tickets to a show, you probably ought to get the permits and legal contracts in place, because I mean you're spinning in the big leagues there, and you probably also want to buy insurance in case something goes belly up with one of those agreements. I mean, it sounds like someone either on the government side here screwed up, or this promoter started selling tickets to shows he did not have the go-ahead to throw yet. He did not have all his T's dotted and his I's crossed. Either way, it's a frickin' mess. There's a whole bunch of Garth fans out there who just got bent over with a Blarney stick. Is there a Blarney stick? I don't know. I'm not Irish. Over at Country Weekly, the music industry rallies to preserve Nashville's historic RCA Studio A. A crowd of Music Row artists, songwriters, technicians, and other quote-unquote concerned citizens gathered at a rally inside the famed RCA Studio A in Nashville to rally support for the studio and other historic buildings on Monday, June 3rd. Now, come on, do you think they were there to preserve RCA Studio A because they're just so concerned about it? Or do you think they might have been there to hobnob with music industry people? Well, anyway, the rally was planned when news reports noted that the studio building was being bought and would, quote-unquote, possibly be demolished by a Nashville developer. This whole thing was organized by Ben Folds of the Ben Folds 5, who rents this studio to record A-listers. It turns out that the developer purchasing the building has no plans to demolish Studio A, and never did. So, why is Ben Folds getting all fluffed if he is so concerned with keeping this historic studio intact? And I would like to see it stay intact. I mean, it is, every big name you can imagine recorded there. I'm not saying I want to see it demolished, but if he's so concerned, why is he renting the studio instead of putting together the money to buy this building himself? I mean, I love it how people who put absolutely no skin into a game start crying foul and, stamping their feet in protest when other people go and get up the money and put skin and risk and investment into a game. And then these people who have no skin in the game want to, cry foul and then tell the people who, put it all on the line what they need to do with what they put their investment on. I'm going to call feigned outrage with the intent of throwing a champagne party and rubbing elbows with industry people and getting some face time in the press on this one, because I think it was all a fluff and folds exercise, if you will. Over at GAC, they've got crap, and more crap. They have crappy crap. The only thing that even narrowly saves them from the belch this week is Crystal Keith's recipe for watermelon sorbet. And that's totally not news, but I like watermelon sorbet. And it is my show, damn it. But over at Taste of Country, they don't have any watermelon sorbet. And in fact, they don't have anything. Let's see. Can I cook them up a nice undercountry music news wet belch of the week, perhaps? Let's see. Let's start with a smidgen of fried green tomato, which I had for dinner last night. Add in some soda from the Dollar Tree. What is it, like Stars and Stripes? Oh, yes. And you shake it all up. Here I go. I'm shaking it up. Getting the pressure. Really? That's all the belch I got out of that one? Dang it. Sometimes there's an after belch, which comes like a story or two later. We'll see. But that's what Taste of Country's got this week. They got the Undercountry Music News Wet Belch of the Week. Moving on. Over at theboot.com. Now here we're going to highlight just how piss poor of a job Taste of Country did this week. Because at The Boot, what do I have? I've got something like 1, 2, 3, 4. I've got 4 stories from The Boot to bring you this week. I mean, my goodness. Okay, we're going to start it off here. Gwen Sebastien refutes rumors that she and Blake Shelton are having an affair. And they credit the story to Taste of Country, who I just gave the wet belch to. And did not find this story on their front page because it was apparently crowded out. By the way, I rarely dig past the front page of the news. If there are multiple pages of the news, I don't keep looking. If it's news and you've got it obscured with crap, you deserve what you get, okay? Anyway, Gwen Sebastian's refuting rumors that have been swirling the toilet bowl of gossip that she and Blake Shelton are getting it on, scratching claws down the back. Now, I mean, there's no way that could be true. I mean, seriously, how completely stupid and suicidal would a woman have to be to F with Miranda Lambert's husband? I mean, Miranda's got a crap ton of weaponry. I mean, let's put it, I wouldn't mess with Miranda Lambert. Okay? Right? And also over at The Boot, the IEBA, that's right, ieba, the International Entertainment Buyers Association, has inducted the Doobie Brothers into their Hall of Fame. I wasn't aware that ieba even had a Hall of Fame. I mean, shouldn't your Hall of Fame have enough fame to be known that you have a Hall of Fame? Apparently it's not very famous. Okay, you know what? This week I'm going to induct my wife into the Undercountry Music Hall of Fame. And I'm going to put out a press release about it. Okay, well, back to the Doobie Brothers. They've been inducted to this Hall of Fame. Actually, they ought to be inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, to be honest with you. And why they're showing up in country music news, I have absolutely no idea. But have you noticed there's only 3 Doobie Brothers left? You see a picture of them, there's only 3 of them. If you're middle-aged like me, I'm 45, and back in the 70s, you'd pick up a Doobie Brothers album, and there'd be like 10 dudes on there. And a couple of them would be black. And in tie-dyed shirts with dreadlocks. Dude! What happened to the rest of the Doobs? I mean, my goodness, we've smoked like 7/10 of the pack already. Right? Now, thankfully, Michael McDonald is not one of the 3 remaining Doobies and is off playing his yacht rock in a harbor for retirees and vacationers in Big Short somewhere. Okay? And since when the hell did the Doobie Brothers become a country act? I mean, they've always had a little bit of that flavor in there, but I think it's a stretch to call them a country act unless they're really doing a major rebranding. I've actually noticed that in the past few years. There actually has been a rebranding effort of this group going on to get them onto more country music platforms, which is probably pretty smart marketing. Although, to their credit, I haven't really noticed any change in their sound, as if they could change their sound. Now, one thing they could do if they wanted to get an easy, cheap payday is what every other old act from the 70s seems to do these days, which is to re-record a bunch of their past hits, repackage those into a new album, and since they're rebranding themselves as a country act, perhaps they could find and invite a bunch of country stars like Brad Paisley, Toby Keith, Zach Brown to also appear on it. That's what I would do if I were an oldies act looking for a quick, cheap payday. Oh, wait, they're already doing that. And it's set to release on Sony Music later this year. Also over at theboot.com, prosecutors in Georgia, the state, not the country, have charged 3 Midnight Rider filmmakers. That's the biopic about Greg Allman. Biopic. It sounds like, they're going to take a biopsy of you. I don't know. Well, anyway, 3 of these filmmakers have been charged with involuntary manslaughter and criminal trespassing following the February 20th death of crew member Sarah Jones, who was struck by a train while filming on a narrow bridge over the Altamaha River. Okay, sorry, that's a mouthful. It's one of those Indian names. Over the Altamaha River while filming this Greg Allman movie. Now, the lady's family has filed a wrongful death suit against the filmmakers, alleging that they failed to obtain permission to produce on the bridge and that they concealed the danger of the situation from their crew. Now, they were apparently filming a dream sequence on this bridge, and the crew was told that if they heard a train coming, the train would blow its horn and they would have 60 seconds to get the F off that bridge. Well, they heard the train horn. And the train got there in less than 60 seconds. And this lady was killed, unfortunately. Now, an injured makeup artist and hairstylist are also filing suit. And this story over at The Boot goes on to state that Greg Allman actually contacted the filmmakers to stop production after the incident happened. And it actually happened on the very first day of filming. But the filmmakers refused to halt production. Mr. Allman actually filed a lawsuit to stop the production, and then a couple of weeks later dropped the lawsuit, and I have no idea why. But anyway, that's what's going on, and the whole situation just sucks. There's a great feature that probably a lot of people want to see, and it's just really got a pall over the whole thing now. Right. In further news over at... Are we still over at The Boot? I've been talking about The Boot so long, I don't even remember. Yes. Over at theboot.com, another story about Bucky Covington. He has signed with new management and a new booking agent and is now partnering with F3 Entertainment, who also handles Craig Morgan and Ira Dean for management. And also Buddy Lee Attractions, who handles Jason Aldean and Florida Georgia Line to be his booking agent. Now, I think that's a great move. I mean, Bucky hasn't exactly been in the forefront for a few years. Now, good to see him getting some fresh blood on the job. Good for you, Buckington. Oh, man. I'm waking up hard this morning. Over at NashvilleGab.com, Shania Twain is getting her own postage stamp. Okay, it's not a real postage stamp. It's a Canadian postage stamp. Not to mention that anyone with a computer and a printer these days and the proper online postal account can have their own postage stamp with their mug on it. Hey, now I got a question for you. Fellas, come here. Would you lick the back of Shania's head? Yeah, maybe. Now I know you don't actually need to lick the stamps anymore, but I think in Shania's case, we can make an exception here. I think there's going to be guys licking the back of that stamp. It used to be that you had to be dead before you could get onto a postage stamp. Now, apparently, it's just your career. Over at the 615, there's a story featuring Colt Ford. The guy who did the rap version of Achy Breaky Heart? Yeah, we're all trying to block that from our memories, aren't we? Anyway, this story is delving into and even complaining a bit about why there is not more rap. That's right, rap, R-A-P, being incorporated into country music. Colt is sort of complaining that when he came to Nashville, he couldn't find anyone writing songs in his rap style. Can you feel me beating my head on my desk here? Can you feel it? You got to feel it. I don't want to do it because it'll just send shockwaves through the microphone and it'll sound horrible. But, okay. Hey, why don't I just walk up to the symphony orchestra and ask them why they aren't doing more punk rock? Oh, okay, or I'll walk up to a bluegrass band and say, hey, you know what? Why aren't you guys writing more techno? And do I have to, uncover the obvious elephant in the room? If Colt Ford is such an awesome artist deserving of our ears and attention, why can't he write his own damn songs? Why does he need these people to write songs for him in a style they don't write songs in? If you want rap mixed with your country, all you have to do is watch almost any country music awards show. I guarantee you will hear rap. And I further guarantee you will hear very little country. Moving on. Nashville.com. Hey, nice to see them back here. And they're not the last one on the list anymore. They've climbed nicely. They've kind of poked in and out over the past month at the very bottom of front page of Google. Yeah, I got hiccups here. Blah, and gas. But anyway, Nashville.com is reporting that on July 9th, the radio show Music City Roots is going to debut in their new home, Liberty Hall, inside the factory at Franklin. Okay, well, Franklin is not Nashville, so technically the show is no longer coming from Music City, although it's called Music City Roots, because Music City is the nickname for Nashville. But I digress. Right? After 5 years at the Loveless Cafe Barn, I did an event there this past year, and the barn only holds about 600 people. They needed more space, and the factory at Franklin holds over 2,000. So I guess they're going to make a pretty big shindig out of this thing, huh? Also over at Nashville.com, they're reporting that the Ryman Auditorium, the original home of the Grand Ole Opry, has announced that it will undergo a $14 million expansion that will add a cafe, a new event facility, a multimedia tour, as well as renovations for the box office, restrooms, concessions, lobby, and merchandising areas. The actual historic music hall is not going to be affected by these renovations. Now, this expansion is going to happen on the 4th Avenue North side of the building, and will add a brick and glass structure that extends from the building out to 4th Avenue. Now, the company hopes to launch renovations later this summer with a July 2015 completion date. And, you know, nobody ever gets this stuff done by the completion date. Never. Right, over at Country Standard Time. There's the Undercountry Music News Wet Belch of the Week we've all been waiting for. Yeah! Now, that is really sad, though. I gave the belch to 2 different country music news outlets that had no news to report. But yet I go into other places and they've got 3 and 4 stories of real news. I don't get it. I do not get it. But one thing I do get is that this has been your Undercountry Music News. Thank you for listening to the Undercountry Music News. The Undercountry Music News is just a small excerpt of the weekly hour-long internet broadcast Undercountry Music, where I, Neil Smith, not only round up the week in country music news and put my own spin on it, but I also play music and have great interviews by lesser-known original country acts, the kind that you won't hear on mainstream country radio. If you're thirsting for that, get on over to undercountrymusic.com, where you can listen and subscribe. You can also subscribe via iTunes to Undercountry Music. Thanks so much. Stay under, stay country.